Today we are tier ranking all of my 5-star reads. These kind of tier ranking videos are some of my absolute favorites to watch of all my favorite booktubers. The 3 most common ones I've seen are bookish tropes, bookish icks, and 5-star reads. I have now already done those 2. I am now doing my 5-star reads today, and I have a few more planned that I've never seen before that I'm really excited to. This one in particular is something that I think will be really fun to look back on over time because my reading tastes have changed over the years, as well as everyone else has, but I want to see how it changes in particular after a few years of getting back into reading, after a few years of being on Book Talk, and then in the future after a few years of being on BookTube. We are going to go book by book through every 5-star that I've written down since 2021. This is when I started tracking my books. Since 2021, I've only given 44 books 5 stars. So let's look through the tiers to see what we're working with today. Up at the very top, I have what I call Pemberley. These are going to be 5-star books that changed fundamentally who I am as a person. They go beyond the scope of a 5-star scale rating. Yes, they are 5 stars, they're 6 stars, they're infinity stars, but they're even more than that. Like, they either opened up a whole new genre for me, they just changed about how I think about myself, or they're just such deeply rooted into my favorites that they have become something much bigger. Obviously, Pemberley is named after Mr. Darcy's estate in Pride and Prejudice. This is kind of like the absolute ideal that I want out of my life. Right underneath it, we have Lifetime 5 stars. These are a little bit different in the fact that yes, they will be 5 stars for the entirety of my life, but they aren't fundamentally like part of who I am. I love them more than every other book ever. Like, they are the top of the top of the top for me, but they aren't like ingrained into my personality. Nostalgia 5 stars are a little bit different, in which like maybe they wouldn't be 5 stars today, but they are 5 stars that were important to who I was at the time. Like, whatever reason I gave them 5 stars was because whatever I was doing and feeling and who I was in the moment. Like, they will be 5 stars because that's just like a part of my life at that time, and I'm either scared to reread them, or even if I changed other books to lower ratings, like in that moment they will stay 5 stars because that's just, a part of who I was at that time. Next, we have must reread to verify, as in they could be still 5 stars if I read them today, but I just don't remember enough about them, or it's been too many years and I need to reread them, and maybe the ratings will change. And right below that is Wendy Darling. These are going to be books that I've grown up a bit, either as a person or as a reader, and would not give these books 5 stars again. Some of these I will know for a fact that if I read them again right now, they would not be 5 stars, and then others I would reread to verify, but probably not. And lastly, I'm not sure if any of these are going to fall into this category, we'll see, but these are who are you? As in, I don't remember a single thing about you, why are you on this list? You should not be here. It's a little bit harsher than Wendy Darling. Wendy Darling, like, I was being nice. Who are you? You do not belong here. So we have 44 books here in total. We're going to go in order, so we're going to start with the books that I gave 5 stars in 2021. That is going to be these 12 books right here. Ishmael is a book that was recommended to me by my friend, and it's essentially this guy learns about humanity from a gorilla. Which, when you say it like that, doesn't make much sense at all, but I pulled quite a lot of quotes out of it that kind of helped me understand humanity and more about myself, and I really enjoyed it. I think if I reread it, I'm not sure if I would get the same out of it. I probably would get quite a lot, and I did find it in a little free library, and I do want to reread it, but because it's just like a part of my life in which I was starting to really grow into myself and learning more about me and the world around me, that's going to be a nostalgia 5 star. It will always be a 5 star in that time. If I read it, again pretty soon, I might not give it a 5 star, and that's going to be okay. Song of Achilles, I have always loved Greek mythology since I read Percy Jackson, and this is the first retelling, or not exactly the first, but one of the first big retelling that I really read, and that is, oh, it's huge. This is going to go into a lifetime 5 star for me because I absolutely adore retellings. I love Madeline Miller's writing. The way that she made this popular and brought Greek mythology retellings to the rest of the world was just huge. I've read this 2 or 3 times now, and it is just such a beautiful book that made me cry, I think, every single time I've read it. So I think this will go into a lifetime 5 stars for me. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. This is essentially 2 boys who are falling in love and trying to figure out who they are. And when I read this was the first book on CDs that I checked out from my library for a road trip, and it was one of like 3 that I had for the whole road trip, so I ended up listening to this one twice in a week, and it was very profound for me at that time, just kind of learning so much from this story. But I think if I were to read it again, I probably would not give it such a high rating. I read the sequel and I really did not enjoy it. I wish I never had. So I think if I were to reread it again, I probably wouldn't rank it as high, and I'm not sure if it will go on that nostalgia 5 stars for me. Next, I read the Frostblood trilogy. This is a trilogy that I rated 5 stars because I flew through it so fast. I don't remember much at all, but I do remember that she has, I think she's the one with fire powers and he has ice powers, and it felt so much like Avatar to me, and I am such a huge Zutara shipper that I think I was living vicariously through this. I'm not sure how good they are. I just remember loving them so much in the moment. It starts off so good, but then I know a love triangle is introduced. I don't remember too much else. I'm kind of scared to reread them though. I think I'd have a good time, but I think I'll be disappointed in them. But they meant so much to me in the time because I was like, man, if I had read this as a teenager, like they would have been my favorite series ever. I think I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I think I'm gonna put Frostblood in the nostalgia for 5 stars, because I think just having that first book, like just kind of opening up this world to me, I think that's always gonna be a 5 star. And then I'll put the rest into must reread to verify, because I do want to reread them. Like I think it'll be a fun, goofy time. And I've never seen anyone ever talk about them, so I want to reread them. This one's pretty obvious because I literally have a category named after it, but Pride and Prejudice is Pemberley level. I read it for the first time in a high school English class, and I remember just kind of remembering bits and pieces about it. I just kind of saw it as another English book to analyze, and so I didn't thoroughly enjoy it as much as I should have. A few years later, I read another Regency romance, and I was like, wait a second, this is actually kind of lit. Like, let me go back to the OG and reread it. And I reread Pride and Prejudice, and let me tell you, the floodgates that opened with that, astounding. I have read this book now so many times. I have watched the 2003 Pride and Prejudice version with Keira Knightley so many times that I have straight memorized. It is my comfort movie. I loved it so many times. I have that on DVD and I have the BBC versions on DVD. Like when I am sad, these are my comfort movies. When I'm happy, these are my comfort movies. Like Pride and Prejudice is just on clearly another level in my head. The next book is The 10,000 Doors of January. I remember reading this thinking it was the coolest premise I have ever seen in my whole life, thinking that this is like one of the top fantasies I've ever read. I remember kind of being annoyed by some of the characters, but like I hadn't read too much fantasy in my adult life yet. So to me, it was a level of a 5 star. I'm not entirely certain what happens in the books. I have a vague memory of the plot, but it has been almost 4 years since I've read it, so I think I'm due for a reread. It might hold up to the test of time, we'll see. The last 4 5-star reads of 2021 were all of the ACOTAR books, minus A Court of Frost and Starlight. And this is very clearly when I got on BookTok for the first time. This is the first like huge popular fantasy series that I think I had read in my adult life, and so I was just entirely blown away. I loved the community that I felt that it brought me for an online bookish sphere. I thought like having it be like this huge overarching plot where there's romance and fantasy and all these really cool subplots and awesome characters, like it blew me away. So for all of that and for really bringing me into the BookTok sphere, this is going into a nostalgia 5 stars because it really opened up my world at the time. However, since then, I have reread them, and they aren't really 5 stars to me anymore. I see a lot of problems in them that I didn't the first go around because I was just so excited. So the rest of the series is going into Wendy Darling. In 2022, I rated 16 books 5 stars, and it's going to be all of these ones. This is when I first read the Bridge Kingdom series by Danielle N. Jensen, and I've read them a few times since then, and I thought I had rated the first ones pretty highly. I guess I didn't do 5 stars, but The Inadequate Heir was my first 5-star read of the series. I remember loving the Bridge Kingdom duology, loving the series, but like not thinking it was like top tier. And then I read The Inadequate Heir and realized like, okay, thank goodness, like there was so much more to this series. Like now that I've read Karis's point of view, realizing that basically the first two books were all pawns in his game. Like reading through from this point of view was just like such a mind-blowing experience to me as a reader that I just absolutely loved it. Question is where to put it. To be fair, I have read it a few times since then, so let me go back and see. When the next book came out in the next year, I ended up downgrading this to a 4.5 star. I'm not entirely sure why, because it's been almost 2 years since then, but that means to me that it's not a lifetime 5-star. I think in that instance, I'm going to put it into a nostalgia 5-star because I really do love this series, and the experience that I had getting this point of view for the first time was just thrilling. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I rated 5 stars the first time I read it. It was a thrill to get through. I know that it was like a book talk darling at the time, and for good reason. I don't remember the like evil guy's name, but I remember rooting for him so hard to the point where the ending I like covered up with sticky notes because I did not like it to end that way. I haven't reread it in a little while, so I think I do need to reread it to verify, but it meant so much to me at the time that I am actually going to put it into a nostalgia 5 stars. Even if I reread it now and it's like a 4 or 4.5 stars, like the feeling I got from reading this such unique story and kind of being part of that book talk world, I loved it so much that walking around in Waterstones a few years later, I ended up buying a special edition, and I absolutely love it. It's one of the most beautiful books I own. And then I read the entire Throne of Glass series, and the only book I rated 5 stars was Empire of Storms. The rest were somewhere between 3 and 4.5, like they kept getting better as time went on, but Empire of Storms was just a league above everything else, and for that reason, it actually is going to go into a lifetime 5 stars. I've only read it the once. I haven't gotten to that part in my reread, but I just remember my roommates were so concerned for me at the time because I was like reading it in the kitchen and I would like be yelling and screaming, and I would get up and like stress pace around the apartment, and they just like they stayed downstairs with me because they were just like I was the show. Like they were just watching me read this book because I was so entertaining. Like I was having an emotional once in a lifetime experience of reading this book for the first time. The Love Hypothesis I read for the first time in a hostel in Paris, and I think that fact alone makes it at least in nostalgia 5 star. Like it was a very iconic place and time to read it. I'm not sure if I've ever reread it. I absolutely intend to reread everything Ellie Hazelwood pretty soon. But from everything I remember, I know it's a Raylo fanfic. I know it's like people in STEM. I love, love, love smart people. I love fake dating. Like I really do think this is a lifetime 5 star for me. Even though I've only read it once, I feel like it's gonna keep up to the hype. And honestly, The Love Hypothesis was the first 5 star that I gave to a contemporary romance novel, and that really opened up the whole genre for me. So for nothing else, it deserves the praise for that. It Happened One Summer is definitely going into Wendy Darling. Like I know I rated it 5 star because I was reading it on the beach in Barcelona, and it was the first really book that made me like laugh out loud. Like I was sitting there on the beach like chuckling to myself, and then my friends were like, what are you reading? And it was like I couldn't tell them because there was all the smiley scenes. But I know that if I reread it now, I would not like it nearly as much for a lot of reasons. So I would know I was being nice in the moment. I've grown as a person and as a reader since then. Love on the Brain, I seem to remember loving it more than The Love Hypothesis, but I'm really unsure. I'm gonna put it into must reread to verify. I intend to reread it anyway. The Ballad of Never After, I saw it on BookTop. It was being so hyped up, and I loved it, but I accidentally made the mistake of reading it before the Caraval trilogy, and I really wish I hadn't done that. But reading it on its own, I flew through the book. I was giggling and kicking my feet and blushing. I freaking loved that book. And I'm pretty sure I read the second one right afterwards. I didn't like it as much, I think because of the cliffhanger. I'm not entirely sure if I read it right then and there. I don't really remember. If for nothing else, it is a nostalgia 5-star for me. I'm going to reread it pretty soon because I still haven't read the third one because it's been so long since I've read them. I remember rooting for this couple so hard that by the time I got to Caraval, which is down here, I had found myself barely enjoying them because I wanted to get to modern day. Like I wanted to get to the Ballad trilogy. So Legendary and Finale, I guess I was just so mad at the first book that I did not rate it for 5 stars, but I apparently did for the second and third. I'm going to have to reread them to verify because I remember loving the world. I know that I had some blinders on because I loved Evangeline and Jack so hard. So I am really looking forward to this reread that I'm going to do. My camera accidentally died and I didn't notice, so I accidentally talked about the next 4 books. So Stone Blind is my first Natalie Haynes book that I read, and I was so entirely blown away with it. She is a Greek mythology reteller, and at this point I had only read Madeline Miller and a few others, and when I read Natalie Haynes' work, it opened up my whole world into new Greek mythology retellings. Since then, I've read quite a lot of her work, and I'm always blown away by everything she writes. She clearly has such a deep knowledge of Greek mythology and a great empathy of the women who don't really get their stories told elsewhere. And so her work just consistently blows me away every time. So for that, she definitely goes into a lifetime 5-star category. I have rated pretty much everything I've ever read by her 5 stars. If you like Greek mythology, find some Natalie Haynes. This is the Graceling series by Kristen Cashore, and they mean so much to me as a person. Graceling is a book that I had on my Kindle in middle and high school, and I kid you not, I read this book on repeat. It must have been just the first fantasy setting that I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved the fantasy world, I loved the magic, I loved the characters, I loved the plot, I loved the romance, and I guess nothing else lived up to it because I know I read this book dozens upon dozens of times when I was in high school. These covers in particular are ones that I got in the UK while I was traveling around. These are the Waterstones editions, and they are some of the most beautiful books that I own. And I got them because I realized that these 3 books I had read before as a high schooler, but that by then there are 2 more books that had come out, and one of them was about to be released. And so I bought them in the UK, and I reread them while I was there in preparation for the newest book that had just come out. And it was the first time I had read them in like 8 years. And I was so relieved to know that they more than held up. I am just as obsessed with Graceling in this series as I was in high school. So Graceling is Pemberley level to me, just for the sheer amount of happiness that I get from these books thinking about them. Like, I need everyone to read this series. It is one of my OG fantasy favorites. Fire and Bitter Blue are numbers 2 and 3 in the series, and as you can see, numbers 4 and 5 are not on here because they aren't 5 stars to me. Unfortunately, I just did not enjoy them nearly as much because they don't really follow the same characters. But Fire and Bitter Blue were both so good. Like, they each hold up on their own as 5 stars. So these to me are lifetime 5 stars. I wish more people talked about this series. Anytime anyone talks about it, like, I feel a kinship for you. If you haven't read them yet, take this as your sign to read the Graceling series by Kristen Cashore. And now we're getting into 2023, and I rated these 12 books 5 stars in 2023. Starting with Ice Planet Barbarians. Now listen, this is immediately going into a nostalgia 5 stars for me because I was just starting a road trip, my first of the year, and it's 4 hours long on Libby, and so I read everything at double speed, and so I read it in the first 2 hours of my road trip, and I remember laughing out loud so hard at the wheel that it was just like the best start to my road trip ever. And since then, I've now read like 50 Ruby Dixon books. Like, it's a nostalgia 5 stars for me because it kind of like opened up the idea of having this entire universe filled with characters that you can know and love their love stories to. If I reread it now, would I still give it 5 stars? I don't know, I've only read it the once. I did find a paper copy in a little free library, so I think I might reread it one day, but not anytime soon. These next 3 books I all read on that same road trip. I drove 6 days from Virginia to Texas, and I was just having the time of my life, like out on the road by myself, listening to all of these like hilarious romanticises. And so I was throwing 5 stars around like crazy. So the first one was The Shadows Between Us, and I remember laughing so hard. I thought it was hilarious. I do need to reread it though. I'm not sure if it'll still hold up to the 5-star category. I remember it being a good time, but I don't know if it'll hold up. And then these next 2, I remember loving these in the moment, and then I got there and I tried to describe to my cousin what was going on, and I couldn't really explain it because I had already forgotten a lot of it. So I think I was being nice when I rated these 5 stars. I imagine that if I reread them now, they would not be rated as highly. I would like to reread them though. These next 2 books I also read on this road trip, but they are these covers that I got in the UK. And these were exactly what I wanted in the moment. They were just silly, goofy, romantasy, pirate, YA books that I flew through, and I was having the time of my life. I don't know if they will hold up or not. I would love to read them, particularly because I now own the last book, and I have never read it. So I would love to reread these and see if I'll still have as good as a time as I did the first time. Now we finally gotten to when I started rereading the Bridge Kingdom series because The Endless War had just come out, and that is when I kind of bumped down the ratings for all of them upon reread, but I ended up reading this one 5 stars. I mean, I was just pacing back and forth. I was so stressed, like having it all kind of get to this crazy plot. Like, it was crazy to me. I don't know if it will hold up or not. I remember it being a really good read though. I will be rereading them all again because the next book's about to come out. So I'm looking forward to see if I will continue the trend of like decreasing them by a half star or a star each time I read them, or if they will stay like this. This is immediately going into Who Are You? Because I remember reading these books. It's a Persephone Hades retelling. I could not tell you a single thing that happens in this book. I don't know. I don't even know if it's the series that's from the point of view of Persephone or from the point of view of Hades. I could not tell you. I don't know any bit of plot. I just remember like flying through these and then very quickly being like, do I actually like these? And then realizing, no, I don't think I do. I don't really like Greek mythology in a modern setting. And then I stopped reading them. So yeah, that is our probably one and only Who Are You? The Dead Romantics. I am very much wanting to reread this because I don't remember too much. But I do remember thoroughly loving this because it's a book for readers, and particularly readers who are looking for love and community and family and, you know, a love of reading. And I remember that alone, I mean, was enough to bump it up to a 5 stars for me. I remember loving the actual plot and the characters. I thought it was really fun, but I don't remember much else, so I need to reread. Six Crimson Cranes I listened to, and I flew through this book. Unfortunately, I don't think I would give it a 5 stars upon reread because I took about 6 months to try to read the sequel, and I couldn't do it. I just could not get through it. I think I was just so enamored by the plot and I loved everything about the world, but it was just too stressful for me and just too much was going on, so I think I was being a little nice. A Duet with the Siren Duke I am going to put into Wendy Darling because I love this series, I love this world by Elise Kovats, the Married to Magic series. It was my favorite along the way. I think it was the only one that I gave 5 stars. But the more I think about the series as a whole, the more I'm like, do I love these as much as I think I do? Because I don't think I do. And then the last book that I rated 5 stars in 2023 was 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes, and it is told from multiple perspectives of the women of the Trojan War whose voices we don't really see. And this was so hard to read in a way that like it's way more serious of a retelling than I'm normally used to, but it hit so hard in all the best ways. So I think everything by Natalie Haynes is just going into an immediate lifetime 5 stars. just every time I read these books by her, they are exactly what is needed in the mythology retellings world. And now we're up to 2024, and even though it is the end of November, there have only been 4 books that I've rated so far this year 5 stars, and already looking at them, these are not still 5 stars to me. They're not still 5 stars. Not If I Save You First is a YA contemporary romance by Ali Carter. I freaking love Ali Carter's like spy school series, and so I started reading everything else by her. And this is a standalone in which these two are saving each other out in the Alaskan wilderness. And I left for a road trip one day and I drove for 8 hours and I finished this book. Like, I loved it so much. I think for that it will be a nostalgia 5 stars because of the author, because of how I read it. But I think if I reread it now, it would not be 5 stars. I'm actually going to skip to The Blonde Identity because this is also by Ali Carter. This is her first adult romance novel, and I read it out loud with my cousin. Like, we had it on audio while we were doing projects and stuff, and so I think for that it's going to be a nostalgia 5 stars because I loved listening to it with my cousin. I had a great time listening to it. Like, it's this spy who wakes up and she's like, oh no, I'm a spy on the run, this guy helps her, and then they very quickly realize actually her twin sister's a spy and she's actually normal. And so the whole book is them like running away and trying to like save themselves. It is absolutely hilarious. I think I was caught up in the moment and gave it 5 stars. It's probably more of a 4-star read, but honestly that was the first book that I like listened in its entirety with somebody else, and that just means a lot to me. And the fact that it's Ali Carter too, like I was in my Ali Carter era at the time, so nostalgia 5 stars. And then next we have 2 more contemporary romances. I've read so many contemporary romances recently. I'm trying to get back into my fantasy era, but these 2 I did end up rating 5 stars. Birding with Benefits, I was so into this book when I read it. I was on a road trip. I got it at an Omaha independent bookstore. I loved the store. I read this, I started reading it that night and I finished it the next day. It's like a later in life story, so they're a lot more mature as people, I guess, and they're going on a birding competition. And this completely reignited my love of birding. I used to love it as a kid, and so reading about it in a romance novel just completely took me back to this hobby. And I've been doing this hobby since then. And so if I read it now, it would not be 5 stars, honestly, but because it reignited my love of birding, I'm gonna give it a nostalgia 5 stars. So it will stay on the 5-star list forever, but if I ever reread it again, which I probably will, it probably won't be rated 5 stars. And now the last book on my 5-star list is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. It is the last book in her Love Light Farm series, and I adore this series so much. It is one of my favorite contemporary romance series ever. I think why I love it so much is my whole life I've always loved the idea of having a book in each season, and that's just something I've been chasing my whole life, and I finally found one, and it's well written. I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the plot. It takes place on a Christmas tree farm. Like, I love it. This book in particular is the only one I gave 5 stars because I saw so much of myself in both the characters that I've just never experienced that before. I think where I am right now as a person is going to cement it at least to the nostalgia 5 stars because I saw myself in them as who I am right now as a 26-year-old. Like, 2 different sides of me were these characters. Like, this book just means so much to me right now. In 5 years, am I still going to feel this way? I don't know how much I'm going to change as a person, as a reader, and if I will still feel this way. It's hard to tell because I just read this not too long ago. Based on the fact that I read it only a few months ago and I still remember too much of the plot, I think I'm going to rate it a nostalgia 5 stars because that is like the bare minimum. I think if I reread it in a little bit, I think I've decided I'm going to read each of the books like in its season. I think the next time I read it, if it holds the test of time and I again rate it 5 stars, then I will bump it up to 5-star status, because I intend to do this again and again. But as of right now, I don't think I'm not going to put it there higher until I reread it. So I think the way that I am going to do this tier rating, I think towards the end of every year from now on, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to include the Pemberley, the Lifetime 5 stars, the Nostalgia 5 stars, and I'm going to try to reread these books in the next year. These at a lower level, I don't think I will. So I will get rid of Wendy Darling, Who Are You, and Below, and I'll try to reread these must reread to verify, and then I will include all of the 5 stars that I have from now until the next video, so that there will repeatedly be 5 stars. I'm wondering if they will move up or down levels, and then see where the new books lead into. But yeah, this is going to be my 5-star reading list. I have not really been having a good reading year, to be quite honest. Past couple months, I've just maybe given a few 4 stars. It's just been a lot of 2.5 to 3.5 stars. I'm hoping that I have a few books on my radar right now that will maybe give me some 5 stars. I don't know what is going on. Like, I need more 5 stars. Like, 4 stars this whole year. Like, am I just being pickier now? Like, am I just not in a good reading mood? I don't know. Hopefully this time next year I will have a ton of new books to add. Clearly I was way more forthgiving with my 5 stars when I started. Thank you so much for watching. I have a few more tier videos. Now that I've done like the basics, I'm so excited to move into these fun new tier videos that I'm really excited for. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.